Hey,
It's
guess
like
what?
saying, do you find water quenching? Oh,
It's 420.
Oh!
Let's blaze it.
Engineering, do we have a thing for blazing it?
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, this is a new segment that was suggested to us by Molly. That we're going to spend a little bit of time catching everybody up a little bit more about Blazeball. And because I don't watch Blazeball, I don't know what's going on.
so we are the perfect moderators to this discussion. I am also a Blazeball naive, even though I have technically been a voting member of the league since season 1.
I crashed.
I think,
Oh.
Oh.
I was so excited about Blazeball and reading messages from engineering that I looked away.
That's
Freedom!
Oh, well, we got to incinerate this bus now, I think is a Blazeball term.
well. I think since Cameron and Corey and Molly all know about Blazeball, it's Beach's turn to drive the bus.
Right. Yes.
I'm gonna go get
All
a
right.
snack.
All right. Try to drive the bus.
I would also love to step away for a few moments.
Okay. So load up. I think the theme for today's Blazeball Blaze It discussion should be the garages because they are calling it a desert bus later today. And so whatever sort of lore or backstory would help people maybe coming to Blazeball for the first time to contextualize this inter-universe Blazeball content. And I think questions from chat are also fair if you have any burning questions about the garages specifically. Because if I say, ask us questions about Blazeball, that's going to be that's all 24 hours of this fundraiser. But so, Cam, what is your personal experience with the garages?
Well, I wound up being a fan of the garages because I just wanted the local geographic team, because everyone was like, you're Canadian, you will obviously be a fan of the Moist Talkers. And I looked them up, and they're based in Halifax.
Well,
I have no relationship with the Canada Moist Talkers. However, I could conceivably, if this was real, see a Garages game.
it's true.
Or multiple Garages games. Presumably, they travel around. But
Several games a day.
yeah, I was also kind of drawn to them because they were not terribly good, but consistently overperformed. Right?
Yeah,
like the
there's
garages had no remarkable players when I started paying attention to Blazeball, because Jalen Hotdog Fingers had been incinerated and had yet to be resurrected. But the garages always did well, even though they didn't really have any strong players. What else?
And how long was Jalen Hot Dog Fingers in the game before they were incinerated?
One season, like
Ooh,
1 week.
So the
basically.
rookie year they got incinerated.
Yeah.
Oh, that's harsh.
Jalen Hot Dog Fingers was like the all-star player. She was the greatest, right? She was the star player on the garages. And then just out of nowhere, for no reason, we voted to open the book. Well, I wasn't paying attention much at this time. The book became opened, and randomly, one player had to get incinerated.
Sure.
And it was the only good player on the garages.
Do you think this will factor into their music tomorrow? Because you've also heard the music of the garages as well?
Absolutely. The conceit for the garages is that they are a band who plays Blazeball. And every member of the garages is in the band. So
that stands because everyone in Seattle is in a band.
Oh, absolutely.
How the city goes, yeah.
I also, like, the garages are honestly really quite good. They remind me a lot of the Weaker Thans, who, if you aren't familiar with the Weaker Thans, you should go listen to the Weaker Thans, and then you will understand me a lot more.
I blew past a bus stop.
Nicely, as is tradition.
Yes. Keep going. Sorry.
And yes, they will be playing here 2 p.m. this afternoon in what, 10 hours? Under
Yeah,
10 hours.
If the people in chat right now go to sleep, they can wake up if they go to sleep at the end of our shift, they can wake up in time for the Garages show.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
And does the music
what is
of
the
the
Garages
reflect? Does it reflect their experience in the game, or is this just
absolutely
it's just sort of their interpersonal? Okay.
My favorite Garages album is the Mike Townsend trilogy, which is a suite of 3 songs that is about the emotional arc of what. Let's roll it back. Jalen Hot Dog Fingers is incinerated. Seattle Garages fans engineer a situation in which she can be resurrected because you can idolize a player, and one of the as more people idolize players, they are ranked by who is most idolized. There was an event where the 14th most idolized player would be moved to your team. So Garages fans, in collaboration with a couple of other allied teams, engineered a situation to get Jalen Hot Dog Fingers into the 14th most idolized position in order to resurrect her. And in order to do this, they needed to basically send one of their existing pitchers into the Shadow Realm.
Which is different from being incinerated.
Yes. And they selected a pitcher named Mike Townsend. And it's very important to realize baseball players aren't real.
Right.
They are, they're a suite of numbers, some of which are hidden, and a name, which is also just a string of characters. Right? These aren't real people.
Mm-hmm.
But because we're humans, we have found the absolute floor on what we're able to pack bond with. And it is a Blaseball player. And Mike Townsend was never mathematically the worst player in Blazeball, but it always felt like it. Mike Townsend could pitch a very good game and then give up 8 runs in the last inning.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Just a coin toss of a player, yeah.
Yeah. And the Garages wrote a suite of songs about Mike Townsend's emotional arc, where he decides that he is essentially going to sacrifice himself in order to return his friend to life. So there were a few, there's a very active Discord server for Blazeball, and
yes,
you can hang out in it while games are being played. And way back in the days of yore, there were chants for Mike Townsend. And one of them was Mike Townsend is a credit to the team. And the other one, which I've forgotten now because this happened 3 months ago, because Blazeball just recently celebrated its 4-month anniversary.
Oh my God.
That's
How many
it.
seasons in those 4 months?
That's it. It's only been around for 4 months.
Should we pedal back a bit and just provide, because I love the idea that Blazeball players aren't real. They are as sort of communally constructed as, like, I would say the figures of Greek myth, right? Of just
Yeah,
kind of agree that Zeus kind of hecks around with various, it's just sort of, we construct a narrative based on sort of archetype characters that are just sort of an outline of a character.
Yeah, like the Hades Tigers long ago had this all-star lineup. Consisting of
to backpedal a bit for people that don't understand how one follows Blazeball, like how you would even acquire these story beats.
You go, Morty. You go to blazeball.com and you log in. Then you'll get a link to the Discord server.
And you watch some charts, basically. The games
Yeah.
update in real time, and they'll tell you that, Alden Cash Money scored a run, etc.
Mhm.
And then there's a wiki and a Discord that scrupulously track these things.
Yes.
You choose a team that you favor, and there's a sort of a pairing system, and there's a strat of other teams, and that's basically it. Blazeball itself is just a website with some numbers that change.
Yes.
But the attention people have paid to it has animated it with life.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Please continue about Mike Townsend.
Oh, it was
that
Mike
his name?
Townsend is a disappointment.
Yes.
That was one of the chants for when Mike Townsend was pitching. Mike Townsend is a disappointment, which evolved into Mike Townsend is a credit to the team because people felt bad
Yeah.
about heckling
That's
this
the lovely
string
thing
of
about chanting
characters.
In Discord, it doesn't matter if it scans in any way. It's
Yeah.
not like you have to. Mike Townsend is a. Like, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Actually make sense out of your mouth.
But go to is it blandcamp.com for the garages? They've also got
It is.
yeah. They've got their Bandcamp page, but they also have blandcamp.com. And just listen to the Mike Townsend trilogy
Yes.
because it is so good. It's so unreasonably good. And it hits like these emotional notes, and it's just like a jam.
I'm terrified this is gonna get me into Blazeball, but you've sold the music to me so hard. I'm actually super interested.
I mean, this is basically all I do to keep up with Blazeball because, like, I'm not that engaged by the moment-to-moment gameplay, right? It's just numbers that are changing. But the culture around it is fascinating.
Yeah, there's like strategies you can employ, idolizing players based on upcoming games to get more money so that you can get peanuts, I guess.
Yeah, and while you were out, we were talking about how Mike Townsend, how teams, there was like a coalition of teams that threw Mike Townsend into the Shadow Realm so
Yeah.
that
Jalen Hot
the
Dog
Incinerated
Fingers.
player may come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was I going with this? There was right.
just a
Mike
website with
Townsend had
numbers.
2 pitches.
Okay.
One of them was a pitch. I think it was a fastball, basically a fastball. The second pitch was the same pitch with a different name.
Oh, so like Blue Steel.
Yeah.
So on the Moist Talkers, the worst pitcher was Ortiz Morse for a very long time. And yet, like, as a 1-star pitcher, they have a rating of like a number of stars to say how good they are at a given activity. And the chant in the Moist Talkers was like, can't crack the code, because Ortiz Morse would do surprisingly well for a very bad pitcher.
Mhm. Yeah, like there are large numbers of hidden stats, which seem to mean that players who are not ranked well can overperform consistently.
And then there's players like York Silk, who had a gunblade, I believe, as a bat, like got one of the special items that boosted their hitting, and was still absolutely garbage.
And we should mention again, because a lot of people don't know what Blazeball is, and we are trying to bridge that gap so that they can fully appreciate, I guess, the garages when they call into this very stream at 2 p.m. today, Pacific. That a lot of these narrative changes happen because the humans, not the random numbers watching, get to vote at the end of each season as to how the league is restructured.
And that is
how players are shifted around, boons and blessings and curses and all of that stuff. Blood, peanuts, changes the weather.
That reminds me, what happened to the book? Because there were 3 options, right? Well, no, there was many options, but pick 3, right?
It ate things.
Mhm.
The book eat was not us eating the book. Apparently, it was the book eating things.
Oh
the
no!
book, I believe, got scrambled. The face, yeah, it rewrote itself, and I don't know what it says now. There's not really any current games. Yeah, Close, I think, was the other one that got picked.
Yeah,
But,
Close. I remember an acquaintance, friend, I guess, we're Twitter mutuals, Kat Manning, who is Blazeball historian, argued passionately for Close the book as being like a satisfying narrative conclusion to the book.
Yeah.
Right? It began when the book was opened. We should close it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Beej, do you have a question?
I do. If this website is simply a collection of here are the team names,
Mhm.
here are the numbers that are being generated as these teams play each other in kind of a very proto Dwarf Fortress fashion.
Very much.
And
Right.
everything else is lore built by the people who watch it and are not the people who are running it.
Mhm.
How do these things get decided that what is the book going to do? Is it because I would assume that it would be choices made by the people who were watching it, and the people who run it say, "Oh, we better come up with something that happens now that they've all voted on this."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So there is
There-
more to the lore that's made by the people who make the game.
There's a couple things that it's still like there's the Blaseball gods, like the Peanut and the Hall Monitor, that
Mhm.
come and talk to the audience periodically.
Okay.
So there's
Yeah,
just like
the-
the screen becomes a peanut and there's words underneath.
Like,
the peanut had like I associated the peanut very strongly with the Leviathan from Hellraiser.
Mm,
You know, the transformed lament configuration that hung out over the labyrinth with its beams of black light. That's what I felt the
Yeah.
peanut. That was kind of the same energy the peanut had.
Peanut was
So-
just a
so
big jerk.
Beach, to scale it back a bit, you remember how like when Welcome to Night Vale came out and it was a radio show. It was literally one man reading the news of a town.
Yes.
And then a fan base came in and went, but they're all kissing. And that just kind of became folded into the story. So that's kind of Blaseball, but with numbers and I'm not going to say no kissing, but not quite as much kissing.
Right.
But equally queer and equally creative and a sort of vibrant artistic fan community that has packed all of this and archived it in a span of about 4 months.
And that's
so it's
the creators
just in
then
the same
coming
way
back and being like,
everything
"We better
else-
feed on this."
yeah, and
And
the
I
way that
think-
everything else is accelerating in 2020, so too is fandom.
I remember was it a couple of months ago now? The developers actually had to break character and say, we need to manage expectations for this
Yeah.
because we intended this to be a horror game.
Ah.
And you're making all the numbers kiss. We don't think it's a good idea for you to get very attached to many of these people.
There's also like official Twitter stuff.
Hmm.
So Twitter is an aspect of the game as well as the fandom, and then they kept adding mechanics as time
It
went
is
on.
something that is by design. Once you get it under your thumb, it squirms away from you a little bit. Like that's kind of part of the joy of the thrill of the chase, you know.
I do think it's like me in chat asks, "How is it horror?" And I'm like, when you ask a question like that, it means that it hasn't really happened yet.
Well, it's like
Like-
the very first thing was like they open the book, and then it was like, and then the umpire's eyes go dark and burning, and they incinerate players, right?
It's like, oh, there's your first clue. Okay. It doesn't mean the whole
Yeah,
game has
like-
changed yet because it's like it depends on how long you want to roll something like that out.
Yeah, there
Molly
was an
comparing
era
it to
of
Night Vale really
discipline.
clicked in my head. Like in the same way Night Vale is horror, this is
Yeah.
horror. Like that again, as soon as you said that, I was just like, got it.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, if Night Vale and like 1770-76 baseball had a baby, you know,
Yeah.
that is the vibe. We have been talking about Blazeball for almost 20 minutes, so I think that's maybe a good place
Yeah.
to wrap up 420 Blaze It for this morning.
I just wanted
whatever
to say
time
that
it is in your
the
time zone.
games start up again on the 17th for the coffee league.
Right, yeah, because we are in the Grand Siesta right now.
Yes. So
Yes, the break
from the
between
17th
seasons.
until December something, like a whole month, they're running this coffee league that will have no permanent effect on anything. It's completely separate. It's the players are divided by their coffee preference.
Yeah, because I think players have things like blood type and their general sort of karma. So it's a great place to hop in if you want to, you know, have another browser tab to open that is not horrifying news.
Yeah.
Which
Hang
I
out
think is the
here,
broader
2
appeal.
p.m. for the garages
Mhm.
thing, and then on the 17th, play ball.
All right. Let's take it home.
Hey!
Hey!
Oh, that's beautiful. 1, 2, 3 strikes, and we are out of that segment.
buttery smooth.